Hello, this is Shakura from the Minecraft forums. I haven't been around for a while, but I'm coming back to post a video of a 3x3 platform elevator I've designed. This is more of a rough prototype because while it works, it only goes up and not back down. And the unique thing about this is it loads an entire 3x3 section of platform, rises at a level, then continues in a loop that'll allow it to continue rising until the elevator pistons can't push it any higher. If you need to know how to spell my name, there it is, Shakura. And let's go through first a step-by-step demonstration of what happens. So, first I need to correct it from its last run to put it into the starting position. So we'll just fire this over here and go down below. The first thing we have on the bottom is a 3x3 set of pistons that is going to raise this block of sand up one, and then while it's raised, you can see there's an RS latch with a timer. The RS latch will keep it raised, and the timer keeps it raised until these three pistons can fire off. There's one here, and one here. They will push a 3x3 block of sand, or block of dirt. You can use any block that will stand upright. I just used dirt because it was convenient. And it will take this level of sand that has been recently pushed up, place it over here, and store it until we can get another layer of sand under there. The lower pistons will then drop back down, and the dirt will keep the elevator from falling down. There will then be a space under here that we will see right now, actually. And, well, you can't see the space right now because it's blocked by the note blocks, but if we look up in there, we can see that there's a 3x3 area in there. And the purpose of that area is to allow for sand to be loaded, which then the dirt block we just pushed out into the middle of it will come back out to the left and be stored while a sand block takes its place. Then the pistons can push up again and start the process all over, slowly elevating the elevator. So now that we fired over there, we're going to come over here and fire the sand loader, which is made up of 6 sticky pistons and 2 rows of 3, and a single row of regular pistons, so that we don't drag the sand back in. So as you just saw, a bunch of sand fell down, and we have a sticky piston under here, which will push this sticky piston forward over to here, which will push the regular pistons under here outwards, which will then fire from wiring that's below here and push the last layer of blocks out through here. And as you can see, we have a 3x3 column here, and then we have a layer of sand right there, just to have something in between, which may or may not be necessary depending on how you've set it up. The way I did, I put the gap in there, so it is necessary. And how the wiring works is there's several latches to keep the memory on, and we only need 3 latches for, I believe it's 4 sets of piston excursions. So what will happen first is this piston will fire out, this piston will fire out, and this piston will fire out, and it works just like over here. The difficulty is getting it back in, and if you've studied any of this, you need to have more loops to pull something back in than to push it out. So what happens first is these pistons out here, which are the regular ones, will draw back. That will allow the sticky pistons that push them out to draw them back too, and afterwards the original piston will fire and draw the sticky pistons back. The problem would be that the regular pistons would be stuck right here, and that would not help us with getting a 3x3 area. So what happens is after those pistons, the 2 sticky pistons are in their original position, the second sticky piston will fire again from this position, which you normally wouldn't need to fire, as you can see over here where there's only 3 sets of wiring. Sticky will then pull in the normal piston and everything will be back to normal, which is why if you test this yourself and see this 3x3 column falling, you'll notice the 2 forward columns will fall before this last third column falls. And after all of that has fired, we come over here and we fire the replacer sand, which will push these dirt blocks back over to storage, and since we no longer have a gap below these note blocks, we can then push it in place, we'll have that in place, and lift the piston again, then replace the sand block and continue on in the loop, and that will slowly raise the elevator up. And it's getting to nighttime, so I'm going to go find one of the many beds I have around the area, along with the many piston testers. And there it's day again. So I'm going to double check the wiring and make sure I've fixed everything that I broke earlier so that the loop will continue in full. And it looks like everything's intact, and I believe I still need to fire this sand over here. And there we go. It's now into the original position except one block higher. So what I'm going to do is connect this right here so that when it's done firing over there, it'll continue on in this loop. And we're going to jump up here, cut down our elevator a little bit. One of the important things to remember is that you should already have sand on the elevators, on the slot with the block storage, with the dirt storage, otherwise these 3x3 pushers will not function correctly. I believe you might be able to put them closer together, but with the way I designed it, they're a bit apart, and I'd done some trouble testing. Thing is, you might want to start one layer above this level, because while you're standing here, the sand will be pushed and you'll be pushed with it, whereas if we put sand above it, we'll be fine. So we hit the button and then we wait. All the circuitry fires and takes a while to go around, and there it keeps on going, and we ride until the original elevator pistons can't go any higher. If the FPS on this is a little slow, that's because I'm using free capture software that I got online. I forget the name of it right now, and it's not showing it in my Alt-Tab items, but it limited the FPS here, and I didn't bother figuring it out. But as you can see, we're slowly rising up, and that black back block platform falls slower than these other two. And just to be clear, that was an even layer before I started this. There wasn't an extra layer there. So we have slowly elevated a good portion of the way up to the top. And the idea for this design is, if you could somehow get it to push over into another copy of this, you could have a nice, cool elevator going slowly up a building. You probably wouldn't be able to do something where you go in from the outside and have a glass view all the way out. But if you go along the outside of a building with an elevator like this, you could have a glass view all the way out of your building, which would be very nice. The inspiration came from this, from seeing, having not played since this spring when I quit Minecraft for a good while. Pistons were new to me, and I saw all these elevator pistons, but I was disappointed because they were all 1x1s, and I wanted an elevator, and I thought of a lot of different things, and unfortunately it would either not be possible or be extremely complex to create an elevator car, because you'd have to have a 3x3 sticky piston above it, and if you know anything about how the sticky pistons work and trying to get them to withdraw, it gets nasty and complicated. So you see this little section, which only has 2 sticky pistons and a regular. Whether or not that regular was sticky or not, it would take all 5 sets of wires to draw that back in for just 3 pistons, where it only takes 3 sets of wires to take it out. And as you can see, we've reached the maximum height that that's going to go, so we break the loop, and we are done. And real quickly, I'm going to go show a couple individual components so they're a little bit clearer, as well as explain a couple ideas for other prototypes I'm messing around with at the moment. Over here was the original test to see if you could get 3-length push-out going, and obviously this was really complicated, and this was for the stickies, so the difficulty here was getting everything to draw back in. Then as you can see, if we just have a regular setup that'll push them out, we can draw them back in as long as this is deactivated before this one, but it won't draw here, so I added in circuitry to do that, and then also fire this one. Anyway, that's not a functioning system. Over here, the prototype is actually for an unloader device. I'm going to fire it off a couple times to get sand in position, but the idea would be, instead of where I'm putting the sand and dirt, they would be in the opposite places. So the dirt would be over there, the sand would be over here, and then you could push it and drop it down a hole. And what's going on over there when we're pushing these 3 things out is that these are all normal pistons, so the dirt will, each piston pushes the next one out, and it pushes all the total dirt out here to this 3x3 area where the elevator would be. Then Once we drop the area below this dirt down one and we push sand into that empty slot, we would push this sand back into the elevator shaft, and then the sand goes up. And the trick with this is, as most people probably figured out if you have any experience, but for those of you that don't, these pistons will push these pistons closed, because after they fire, they close and become pushable once more. And that's the basic system for storing a platform, a 3x3 section of the elevator, and reinserting it once we've got sand below, and that's the basic mechanism that allows you to use a falling block to increase the height of the elevator repeatedly. Over here is not functioning right now, but the basic premise was to take a single piston over here and a line of sand, or much less efficiently a height of sand, which would limit you to you'd have to have at least 9 times the space above the, or you'd have to have a space going 9 times as high as you want your elevator to go high if you're just using a single column of sand for this. And the idea is that you push the sand and it goes 3 times here, or this block would trigger 3 times, sending it out over anyway, it would push the sand out 3 times, and each time it pushes out, this will drop down because it's retracted again, and it'll fill up this small 3x3 area, which will then push the sand out into this block. And once this whole system over here, which as you can see is a little bit ugly, has triggered 3 times, then we would push the blocks up, because we would have this 3x3 sand out of the dirt in storage over here, and the sand would be able to lift up, and then we could push the dirt back in place and re-rise it. I think this actually may be the wrong system. We might have to have above this the actual dirt and sand mechanism with the 3x3s I showed you earlier, and then this just pushing it out. The idea, though, was to make it so that sand could also be pushed back out from the bottom of the elevator and hopefully restored into either a linear system where it just goes straight up, or a 2-dimensional system of sand storage, which would take some figuring out, or maybe even a 3D sand storage, and the purpose of that would be to cut down on the height necessary to get the elevator up to whatever you're sending it up to, and hopefully be a bit simpler and easier to make a repeating elevator that goes up and down, and it doesn't have to be refilled with sand. It would just automatically do it itself. But again, the mechanics of that, as you can see, I've experimented with very little success, or very little effort actually. Hopefully you could have everything automated, but that would be a complicated system, which I'm sure someone will figure out if they try, but I haven't done so yet. And that's essentially just the demonstration of some of the things you can do with pistons, and hopefully we can see some actual elevators in Minecraft every now and then, rather than just these straight up piston movers. And obviously over here the timers need to be extended a little bit to get the demo running, and once we're done with that, that'll be the end of the video. So thank you for watching, and I hope you find this at least interesting, if not any use to you. And I guess that's it. So let's see if this works, and maybe in a couple weeks I'll have another prototype up, depending on how much time I invest in Minecraft between now and then. Well, that sort of worked. Anyway, this has been Shakura from the Minecraft forums, and I hope you all have a nice and fun time in Minecraft.